So I am going to be telling you about this initiative that we have at George Mason University. We have a very large goal to become a model well-being university. And I want to tell you a little bit about George Mason first before we get started. It is the largest university in the Commonwealth of Virginia, 35,000 students and growing. We have a lot of employees, a lot of the students. It really started as a satellite kind of school of the University of Virginia about 40 years ago to serve the needs of the D.C. region. So we're in northern Virginia, outside of D.C. So we started as kind of a community school and still are more community than residential, but we're moving towards becoming more of a residential university. We have a very, very diverse student body. So a part of being outside of the D.C. region, I think, has contributed to that. So really one of the most diverse student bodies in the United States of America. We serve, this is racial diversity, cultural diversity, and socioeconomic diversity. So about a third of our students are first generation in their families to go to college. About a third are Pell Grant recipients. So it's serving a very broad range of students. Within the university, we have a Center for the Advancement of Well-Being, and this was started in 2009 with a private grant. And our mission is to serve as a catalyst for well-being. Our goal is to positively impact 10 million people by 2019. We actually feel that we've already reached that goal and I'm going to talk about all the ways in which we're trying to impact the well-being of a very large number of people. So we started by saying, first of all, we need to say what is well-being, because there are so many different definitions of well-being, and it took us about a year to come up with what we're defining well-being to be as we go about trying to catalyze well-being. And we define it as building a life of vitality, purpose, resilience, and engagement. So working with that in mind, our goal is to try to impact students, faculty, staff, alumni, people in the community around George Mason to help them increase their own well-being. We believe there's a real case for this, especially at the university. There's research showing that well-being of students and of faculty is related to retention, to graduation rates, to learning and community engagement on campus, to a sense of alumni affiliation, and even the community of life around the university. So we believe it's a very important mission that can really have a positive impact in so many different ways. And this has helped us to make this a part of the goal of the university. And what we believe, we are one of the first universities to have this at such a large scale, really institution-wise. There are a lot of universities that have departments that are doing research on well-being, that have a center for well-being, and small divisions within the university focusing on well-being. We believe we're the first ones who have this across the entire institution. A lot of top-level leadership support. In fact, out of the 12 strategic goals for the entire university, one of those goals is to become a well-being university. So top-level leadership believes in this and supports this. It's also very grassroots. So any group of students anywhere on the campus, any unit within the organization, any department, anybody who comes up with an idea for a well-being activity just sends that information to the center, and we put it on the calendar of events for well-being events. So it's open broadly to anyone who wants to participate and increase the well-being. It cuts across disciplines. We have courses in well-being in just about every department on campus, people doing research in well-being all across the university, and the units. So we have HR is involved with courses of well-being for faculty. We have academic advising focuses on well-being. Career services focuses on well-being. Athletics has a whole area in which they're focused on well-being. So it's interesting to see how widespread it is and how many groups across the university are on board with this. So lots of initiatives, and I'm going to go through these and just mention a few things within each of these areas where we are working on well-being. So academic, co-curricular programs, programs for faculty and staff, research, measurement, and even public outreach. So I'm going to dive right into these so we have time to get through some of them. So academic programs, as I mentioned, we have courses in well-being throughout the university. So graduate courses, undergraduate courses in religious studies, in conflict analysis and resolution, and psychology where you'd expect it, but places you wouldn't expect it. We have something brand new, the core pathway, that's starting in the fall. So there are a few core pathways that you can choose to study at Mason, and one of those is going to be well-being. So students would take 18 credits of well-being courses. They would participate in co-curricular activities, and this at the end would be recognized on their transcript. At graduation, they'd probably have a well-being cord, and so it's something that they would be, it's like a specialization, right, in the area of well-being. So we're excited about that. We have a couple of minors so far, working on more. Music and well-being is a minor, and we have consciousness and transformation is another minor. And we have a residence for mindful living. So this is very popular. There's an entire residence hall. Everyone there is interested in learning more about mindfulness. So they practice meditation and yoga, and they have 1 hour a week that they get together. They learn about journaling, learn about different ways to practice mindfulness, and it's a very popular, amazingly popular, the amount of students who want to live mindfully in this residence together. So co-curricular, we have a lot of offerings here. We try to get peer educated model where we teach students about well-being. There are a number of modules that they learn about well-being so that they can go throughout the university and teach their peers in their classes. What is well-being? Well, let me tell you about well-being and what can help your well-being. We've been very focused on resilience. The research is showing that each class of freshmen coming into the university have lower levels of resilience. This is a real problem we're facing, and it really impacts the students' lives at the university. So there's a resilience badge. This is something we're doing with Design Lab. It's a think tank, education think tank, and it's kind of a new thing. You get, you do modules, and the students can learn about well-being, and once they complete all of these modules, they get a badge that's like a technology badge. They can put it on their LinkedIn website so that they have a badge in resilience. So, you know, when they go out and get a job and people can see that they've learned about being more resilient. We have resilience modules on the website that faculty and staff can use. So we've actually come up with PowerPoint, a 15-minute PowerPoint class that a teacher can use. If a teacher's worried about their students' well-being, they can just take this from the web and plug it into their class and teach their students about ways to improve their resilience. We also have a scholarship. So each year we have 6 students who receive financial aid and mentoring from the Center for the Advancement of Well-Being. So moving right along to a lot of the other programs we have, probably the biggest program that we've started that's most widespread is our partnership we have with Gallup. So the Gallup organization, we've partnered with them to provide the Strengths Finder assessment to everyone. Anyone with the email gmu.edu, and this includes even alums who can keep their emails from Mason, can take the Strengths Finders for free and learn what their strengths are. And then we have a Strengths Academy, so a group of us were trained by Gallup to provide further workshops and training in using your strengths. So we do this all across the university. I've done several of these where you facilitated. I've done it for the financial aid group. I've done it for admissions within the university. So they'll have the whole team take Strengths Finders, and then I come and do a 2-hour workshop on using your strengths and working as a team and how we can use our strengths as a team. So that's ongoing across the university. The Wellbeing Certificate Program is through HR, and they've created a well-being course that faculty and staff can take. So faculty and staff run through, it's co-curricular, they go through these courses. We have it a couple times a year, so they're learning about the science and practice of well-being. The learning community is when we very started this and defined well-being. We had a group of people from across the entire university, faculty, staff, students. We meet probably every 2 months, talk about the Well-Being Initiative, talk about other things that we can do, talk about where we want our focus to be. We have yoga, meditation, walks through the campus on Wednesday walks, well-being walks. And we built this into orientation. We want everyone at the university to know well-being is important here. We're focusing on well-being. And so we have new student orientation. We talk about becoming a well-being university and what that means and what well-being is and what we'll offer them. And we do the same thing with employees. We want employees to know that you are coming to a university that focuses strongly on well-being. Research activities, lots of research going on well-being. So the center funds many grants. Right now we have someone studying civic engagement and well-being and social justice and well-being. So we have a very large department in conflict analysis and resolution. And so we're looking at people who provide help to others in this way and their own well-being and how they need to work on their well-being so that they can help others. Doctoral dissertations, theses, a lot of research going on. Measurement. And Sanja Lubomirsky was at our conference a couple of years ago, and we spoke with her, and she's the one who said, you've got to measure this. It's very important to see the effect of all of this. So with our partnership with Gallup, we have a survey, an annual survey of students and of alums. So the alums, we're measuring their hope, well-being, and engagement. And with the students, we also add strengths, engagement, and resilience. So we're following and tracking to see if this changes as we become more of a well-being university. I told you resilience was an important factor, so we actually have a study, ongoing study to look at that and how that's connected to retention. And we have an advisory committee as well to follow up on measurement. This is just one thing that we saw in the Gallup poll that shows across the board engagement and strengths is related to hope, engagement in school, believing you can get good grades, that the university has positively contributed to their lives, and that they're more able to pursue their goals. So we're seeing this link between using your strengths and a lot of important factors for success. So the final one, public outreach. So we also want to serve our community and help their well-being as well. Spring into Wellbeing is a month-long of programming that starts Monday on International Day of Happiness, and we cover all areas of well-being and have programs and activities related to that. We have an annual conference that's coming up April 7th, the Leading to Wellbeing Conference, and this is our 8th year, and we serve, again, the entire people come from, Sanja was a speaker a few years ago. We have great keynote speakers and people from all over the region. A lot of coaches come, a lot of people from industry, and companies come to learn how to create more positive workplaces. The executive education, so I teach a positive leadership course, as I mentioned earlier. We also have a very popular coaching course that are all taught through our center, and the website offers a lot of information. So, just finish up with the challenges. It sounds great, but it's not as easy as I made it sound. We definitely have challenges, and one is just an agreement of what is well-being. Some people, feel like the way they define well-being, that's really not what we're looking at, and so there's a lack of clarity and agreement. But I'd say the biggest challenges we have are just the reality of people's lives today. It's not always compatible with having high well-being. So, we have faculty workloads are increasing, but we have a state budget that's decreasing. So, we're asking more and more every day of our faculty and not raising their salaries. And they're like, you know what? If you care about my well-being, pay me a little more. Then I'll be a lot better off, right? So there are things that we would love to be able to do, but we can't do that would help their well-being. On college campuses, there are issues of social justice, and there are people who do not feel that they are thriving because of this. And we have sexual violence. I mean, there are a lot of problems that we're still trying to work with that are not good for people's well-being. And I'll just mention a last one that we've also really struggled with, if anyone has any suggestions, incivility. So in workplaces, there's a lot of incivility. We have a lot of tenured faculty who will be there for the duration, and they're not always nice. Sometimes they're not nice at all to some of the younger faculty coming in, and that, having a workplace with incivility is not good for your well-being. So it's something that we, at all of our meetings, say, how can we do something about this? We're doing a lot of things that I've talked about for well-being, but there's still some things that are, people are suffering at work, and we need to figure that one out. So any advice would be great. So we're really trying to change the way we define what a successful college education is. Typically people think of higher education as getting the skills you need to get a good job. We really believe that it's about more than that, and it should be about more than that, and people should come to the university to learn life skills to have a better life, to learn to be resilient, to learn to find meaning in their lives, to engage their strengths, to find happiness. So it's a big goal, but that's what we're working on. Thank you.
Beth, and you can stay there just for a second. First of all, and pick up a mic. First of all, this is great. Clearly George Mason is ahead of most institutions in the world, I would guess. And you've been at this journey for a while.
Yes.
Doing a lot. What's different? Share a story, something that happened that illustrates the impact that this initiative has had at George Mason.
Oh gosh, one story.
Or, what's different?
Yeah.
From when you started to today, how do people react? Do they react differently? Is performance better? Are you getting better calls from alumni?
I think the biggest, what we've seen is with the measurement of the strengths, and we've seen the impact of strengths. And I mean, Gallup has seen this, across the board, but we're seeing it specifically at the university, that when you know what your strengths are and you use your strengths, it does give you a sense of hope. You become more engaged, and we're using it, throughout the university. So just in general, people feel more engaged, feel more hopeful, feel like they can make better grades because they know these are my strengths and this is the way that I can study and do better in school if I leverage my strengths. But we're using it in academic advising to help people make decisions about what majors and what they want to study, and we're using it in career services. And so I think, it's helping people focus on what they're good at and how they can use what they're good at to go out and do better. So I think that's a big one. I mean, I think there's just a growing understanding as a community that well-being is important and matters, and just having people understand that and focus on that. And there is a lot of interest in that now that there wasn't before. There wasn't really an awareness of it before.
And you show the clear connection. It makes a lot of sense. But well-being and resilience.
Yes.
Was resilience part of your equation at the beginning of the journey, or did that arrive later?
We've become more focused on that. That original definition is the first thing we focused on, and resilience was a part of that. So a life of vitality, purpose, and resilience and engagement. So from the beginning, we thought this is an important pillar of well-being. But what we've seen is still every year coming in, freshmen are less resilient. I think there are a lot of things happening.
So let's focus on that a second. So compared to, say, a decade ago, the freshmen coming in today are less resilient. How does that manifest? Do you have any hypotheses as to why that is?
I think it's the way they're being raised. I mean, I think there's some helicopter parenting involved.
By the way, they're now called drone parents.
Drone parents,
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
How did I not know that?
If you think about it, it's a lot worse because you don't even have to fly the thing. It just follows you around all the time.
Yeah, so that does not necessarily prepare people for leaving home and going off to school. I think social media makes things difficult. You can use it to connect, but you can use it to not connect. And imagine going off to school where you don't know anybody. Well, you don't have to ever meet anybody. You can sit in your room and text your friends and be with your friends who you've left. I mean, I think it impacts the way people approach going to college. It's different and not necessarily as good for their well-being. So yeah, we see lots more counseling issues, people with, problems when they're coming to college that we didn't see before. And I think it's kind of, they're not as prepared maybe to go away and face the realities of living away from home and meeting new people and all that. So yeah, we're definitely seeing that.
Well, it's an issue that all institutions will have to face, and it sounds like George Mason is at the head of that curve.
We're trying.
Great. Thanks, Beth. This is great.